Yeah, one clarification as well. I'm not working for a telco company. It's a university. It's a technical University of Applied Sciences in Vienna. So no telco.
So good morning, everybody. My name is Kamran Naqvi. I'm Chief Network Architect for Broadcom in EMEA. And with me, I have Markus, who's the Chief Solutions Architect for Technikum Wien. So he will explain more about Technikum Wien. But basically, this presentation is more of a story, a real story, a case study of FH Technikum Wien, how they embarked on this journey of open networking, how they started from data center, and then they dared to take it to campus. And then what has been their experience, what are some of the lessons learned. In the end, we've been working at Broadcom, we've been working with the team throughout this journey. And at the end, after Markus' presentation, it will mainly be a Markus show. I will come and talk about some of the contribution that we did to make SONiC work in the campus environment. So over to you, Markus.
Okay. So, yeah, we are a small university compared to bigger ones, but one of the biggest University of Applied Sciences and the biggest technical in Austria. It is growing, so that's also a challenge for us. We will get a new building, and we have one main campus and an offsite campus that's always somewhere's here, somewhere's not, because it's always the plans to move it to one campus. But at the end, this year we finally connected our offsite to the new switches as well. And yeah, so lots of challenges. So yeah, some years ago, our network was bad, but we'll come to that later. A little short on time, so we'll skip over some things. It is a bit of a challenge for us. We are a technical university. Our main goal is to use as much open source as possible. But at the same time, we have, for example, our engineering faculty or computer sciences, and they will, if something doesn't work, they will immediately come and tell, yeah, why don't you use Cisco, something proved, industry standards, why all those open source stuff? But so far it's working fine. It needs some commitment, and we're also in the process of we have one IT department for the whole university, and then all the faculties have their own IT department. And in the next years, it will move into one IT department, so the faculties lose their own IT staff, and will make our life easier, but also more work. And mostly it means our hypervisors in the data center finally make sense and have stuff to do. And yeah. Well, then, we wanted to move away from Cisco for various reasons. Also, the switches were old, and it was time for something new. And back then, we also looked a bit at Dent and also Cumulus Linux. We started actually with Cumulus Linux. That didn't work, wasn't open for very long. And then we took the gamble with SONiC. We questioned that a few times in the past. I think by now it seems like it was the right choice. It's still a bit rough on the edges for campus or in the data center. We use it for years and it's working fine. We changed our architecture a few times, but that's just for the different views of whoever network architect we have. They want to have their own setup, but so a bit more about our campus. This is our main campus. This is two big buildings, a small one, which unfortunately doesn't have many fibers connected to the other buildings. So that's, for us, it's like a remote building as well. It's only 150 meters away, the building C, but we still have to treat it like the other 10-kilometer away building. and the smaller B one, which we use to now have 3 data centers, so we have a proper backup for all our hypervisors. Yeah, except that we wanted open source to use as much as possible. We also wanted to move to IPv6. Yeah, that's working. How much it's used is another story, but there's a few services that are IPv6 only, which are good test cases for people that still don't use it. And yeah, we wanted to have more resilience and scalability because our old network, which we'll see on the next slide, was quite limited on that. So this is on purpose. That is a view of our old Cisco network. And they were more or less chained one switch. So each of this is one rack or one switch room in one floor of the university. So this, for example, is one of the medium-sized buildings. And we had 2 core switches from here, and then the link spread out from one switch to the other, to the next room. And yeah, if one switch dies, which if they're 10 years old, happens from time to time, and if they only have one power supply, so 90% of the time the power supplies of the Cisco dies. Sometimes something else, but that's one of the reasons why we like redundant power supplies. And we didn't have much fiber in the past. That's why chaining from one floor to the other, because that was the fiber that was in the building. So one big achievement was that we installed fibers from 3 data centers to all the floors, and plenty of fibers, and also plenty of fibers between the 3 main buildings. Yeah, we're now able to have better architecture. We have a EVPN network, EVPN to every floor. So our floor switches, which are edge core 4630s, terminate the EVPN, and yeah, we have spines in all 3 data centers and shared super spines with our data center network. But the data center itself is separate from the campus network. Yeah. Of course, it is faster than before because we moved from Cisco switches 2960s, some of them only 1 gigabit fiber ports, to some 10, to yeah, now we have 50 gigabit at every switch. We even have that at our offsite, we multiplexed our fiber lines to the remote building and now have the same or nearly the same speed there. Which is it's like going from 1 gigabit for the whole building to more than 100 or 150. And yeah, one other important thing for us was that we don't have a different setup in the data center and in the campus, so the same operating system, not the same setup, but same monitoring and the similar Ansible scripts. Yeah, we also use .1x already. It's still an ongoing struggle. Less with people, that comes soon. But yeah, one of our .1x problems is that in our lecture rooms, we have automated deploy system and this network boot and wake on LAN. And having both at the same time, .1x and wake on LAN, is not working yet. We're going towards this. So for now, it's still switching the network configuration if you want to do a deployment. In summer, that's okay. But during the year, we would also like to just wake the PCs up, update them, and if something wasn't working. Yeah, also we have lots of legacy hardware that's sometimes also interesting. So we have still our old Wi-Fi network. We will upgrade it in the next years, but at the beginning, the switches should be compatible with our Wi-Fi network. It's something we gave up because we learned our lesson. Something that claims to be a Power over Ethernet standard compliant is not necessarily so. So in this case, our old access points simply won't work on new switches that use power on all data lines and not just a few. At the beginning, network simulation was quite important to us. That was one big reason why we moved to SONiC, so we can try it out first. But now we actually don't really use it, because mostly we have hardware issues, so testing it in simulation is nice for the architecture, but the real problems happen as soon as you connect any devices. So we have a lot of test switches and plug things in there. And yeah, long term we also would like to use the warm reboots. It's because in a data center you can have redundancy. You have 2 switches or 3 switches connecting to one server. If you service one switch, it doesn't really matter. On the campus you have 1 copper cable, so this one switch, if you upgrade it, it should come back fast and as fast as possible. So and also it should have 2 power supplies so that it doesn't happen too often, because it's not just that the lecture room has no internet, it's also the door control doesn't work, the people can't get into the room anymore, they maybe not even get into the floor. The phone also wouldn't work, so they even can't call for help. Yeah, so this switch needs to work as often as possible. Yeah, so that's our journey, or the second half of our journey. The first was we decided to go to SONiC. We did it in the data center, and then we decided to go on the campus as well. And after some preparations and testing in the summer 2023, we deployed the first campus switches. So that was first the building with we have our offices as well. So if problems are, they are close to us. That worked quite okay. And the unexpected things was our fiber links. We had new fibers. We assumed everything's fine. We got new fiber SFB modules. We decided to go for simplex modules, more or less for 2 reasons: to save some of our fibers, but that wasn't really important. We had enough of them. But for simplicity, because you can't mix up TX and RX on a simplex connection, so it was very easy. You plug in 1 cable and things will work. Also because some of our fiber installation wasn't made as planned, and we would have to undo every cable and switch it once, so we went for simplex. That seemed to work fine until we realized the links go up and down all the time, partially because we had some third-party not supported SFB module, but the real reason was we happened to have dirty cables or people not working properly. And without packet loss, the link wouldn't have gone down. But it didn't report the bad link. It just at some point the error rate got too high, and without any warning, the links will go up and down. We still haven't sorted out the proper monitoring and warning of the bit error rate, but we cleaned the cables, and so the links are stable now. But that was a lot of work back then. And then a little later, when we sorted that out, we realized our power supplies, we were happy now, finally redundant power supplies. But then we looked at the log files. There's a lot of error messages of the power supplies. And at first we ignored them until we realized, okay, if you have errors on both power supplies, the switch will eventually reboot. Luckily, it only did that on the weekend and not during the week. For a while, we thought that's because we are so lucky. The reality is these power supplies had a manufacturing error, more or less, and they don't work at low load. If the switch uses more power, they are stable. If they use less than 30 watts, they go into some sort of standby mode. And switching from standby to normal use causes some voltage fluctuation, which at some point the switch thinks it's too bad and thinks the power supply is faulty. And if it happens on both PSUs at the same time, you have no power. There's also some problems in the power management bus implementation on the PSUs. Long story short, a few months later, after lots of talks with EdgeCo about it, we got all PSU changed, and again a lot of work and something to learn. Like if you have a rack and it's directly next to a wall, it's not a good thing if you want to change the power supplies, because you have 50 copper cables plugged in at the front, and then you kind of try to get the switch out, change the power supplies. So we now know that in the future how we install new racks, but so other lessons learned. Yeah, a tiny thing is fan speeds. The part of the fans in the switches are software controllable, others are not, and in a lecture room, in the data center, it doesn't matter how loud the switch is. If they are actually in the lecture room, which happens a few times, then yeah, if they spin up to full speed and then 1 minute later spin down again because it actually wasn't that hot, it's just not okay for the whole lecture, and then you hear some that will be sorted out at the moment. Yeah, we hacked it a little bit because the current kernel driver doesn't support it, but the PSUs actually allow fan control. It's just not available in SONiC right now. And yeah, I already talked about the racks and our monitoring, because we still use SNMP for legacy reason, because our main monitoring system uses it. Has some problems as well there, but yeah, it still does what it should. So we mostly know things that don't work. Yeah, that's from my part.
Thank you, Markus. How much time we got? Okay. Right, so can you complete my presentation? Please go ahead.
So Markus, on the net flow and S flow, where it is right now from your perspective?
Where's the
Net flow and S flow.
Net flow and S flow. Do you use net flow and S flow?
We don't use any of that. We had the plan to do that, but our problems are way lower. So we have too much bandwidth anyway. So our main problem is to some devices like Power over Ethernet phones or access points work, and the door control also use Power over Ethernet. So compatibility issues with that, and .1x is also enough stuff, so we are not really worried about the bandwidth. We have 10 to 20 times more bandwidth than we used to have in the past. So we don't really monitor that at the moment. We're quite worried, and long term we want to have a distributed firewall which partly is on the switches and the servers. We still haven't done it, and we run through one firewall that can do 25 gigabit and it's never maxed out. So we don't have that much traffic, so we also don't look at it.
What is the scale right now? How many switches is this?
The scale is we have 60 SONiC switches in the campus and 10 or 15 in the data center. And when we're done with, at the moment we haven't moved the offices, so at the end it will be 150 switches altogether.
And it's all on Broadcom, yeah?
Yeah, so Broadcom hardware. It's not all edge core, but mostly, but yeah, for now it's only Broadcom.
I have one question. So you have the campus switches running access switches. I understand the Wi-Fi has to be in the same layer 2 network because you can walk around with Wi-Fi. But how did you do it with the local LAN switches? Does each switch have its own layer 2 network only running on the switch, or do you have a bridge running over LAN?
No, it's not layer 2 between them. So within one floor, they are still somewhat in the same network. But else, yeah, it's a full layer 3 setup. So one floor was necessary because, at least in the same room, you have two switches covering the same room. And
I think we'll take more questions at the end, so I'll just cover a couple of more slides in the interest of time. And Markus is going to be here till the end. So, right, so I think I would also kind of partially answer your question. When they started, I mean, in the beginning, there was some layer 2 connectivity at the access layer.
We started with a layer 2 setup, and then we ran into some problems, and then we had to start with layer 3.
But I think the first question is, okay, we're using VXLAN EVPN in campus, we're taking SONiC to campus, we're taking the same architecture to campus. Why are we doing that? Right. So the why is important. So very quickly on this slide, I'm going to cover 2 or 3 main points. Point number 1, with the layer 2 connectivity, we get a lot of flexibility, it's plug and play and stuff. But we also have these spanning tree issues. We have all, well, at least some of you are of my age who have solved many of these spanning tree loop meltdowns in the network, right? They're scary when they happen. So when you have this VXLAN EVPN based network, you don't need to worry about spanning tree. Number two, this is, you have a proper control plane here with EVPN. You do not need to do flood and learn. You do not need to learn all your endpoints when they speak and everybody receive their messages and ARP is going everywhere. You have a very nice control plane. EVPN is doing the learning for you. It's once again a standard-based deployment, right? You're still using Ethernet, you're still using IP, there is interoperability. And with this architecture, you have the flexibility to start by having your brownfield access switches. So if you have access switches in your network which do not support VXLAN EVPN, it's okay. You can still put your leaf and spine on top. You can run VXLAN EVPN on it. You still get your L2 mobility. You still get your VLAN extensions, and you are still able to use your legacy switches as well. So there is a lot of compatibility. That's a benefit of running standard-based solution, and that's one of the advantages of SONiC. And yes, you have this ability to extend your VLANs wherever you want to. So you have a robust layer 3 underlay, and you're still providing layer 2 services. So that's another benefit. And as Markus alluded to earlier, when you're using, so for example, we at Broadcom also use SONiC, not only in our data center, also in our campus. We are one of the biggest users of SONiC. We don't run in hundreds, we run in thousands. We are already at 4,000 switches. At the Global Summit, we will be there and we will be presenting Broadcom's deployment of SONiC. It will be a long story, so I won't bore you just now. I forgot what the point I was making. Yes, when you have, even from the same vendor, when you have switches running in campus and you have switches running in data center, in many cases they are different operating systems, which means you need to manage them in a different way. Another benefit of running SONiC, another benefit of bridging this gap and taking SONiC everywhere, you can use your same management solution, right? Our friends from Stordis are here. They have this open source Monsoon management solution, monitoring solution. You can use it in data center, now you can use it in campus as well. That's what Markus and guys are doing. They have got Ansible playbooks. They can use the same ones in data center, they can use the same one for your campus as well. So that is another flexibility that you get when you move your SONiC from data center to campus. But of course, there was work needed to be done, right? So from Broadcom side, we had to put SONiC on DITE, we had to enable SONiC on lower speed silicon. So for us, it was Trident 3, X2, X3 type of switches, and that's what we did. We enabled that. And then we had to, enable certain other campus-related features on SONiC. So .1x, for example, is a requirement for Markus and the team. So that's what we enabled. Then you need a policy manager, right? Cisco is probably one of the most popular policy manager with ICE. I'm biased because I'm ex-Cisco. I was talking to Abdullah earlier. So we supported, we enabled compatibility of SONiC with Cisco ICE, with Aruba ClearPass, but there are, open source Avengers out there like Markus who use free ADS, and that is also supported. We supported PoE, PoE Plus, and all the different versions of it. There is a lot of security capabilities. We download ACL, etc., and that is all supported. Finally, to finish it off, we believe SONiC is ready for enterprise, not only data center, but with campus as well. Yes, there are challenges, as Markus said, but thanks to people from FHTW and Markus, they have worked, they have hit the issues. We have fixed many of those issues for them. So it is relatively a much more reliable and easier solution to deploy in the campus as well. As Markus said, this is a point from him. Markus, you maybe want to talk about that, the Ansible playbooks?
Yeah, we're still, for example, not happy with some of the Dell Ansible. It's not really as stable, so it works when you test it. If you run it on a production switch, then half of the ports configuration change, the other doesn't. So we kind of stopped doing that and just using CLI commands and automate that with Ansible. long term, we want to have proper Ansible, but for now, our setup is simple enough to, just use CLI commands.
Markus, on the data center side, is Ansible okay today or not?
I think on the data center, we didn't run into any real Ansible issues. So, yeah. I mean, if you write a bad Ansible, it's bad, but yeah.
The last 2 points from my side, obviously more collaboration, as Markus said, required on the SONiC community input required to fix some of the worm reboot issues on Access. That's what they want. You can get a copy of Enterprise SONiC they're running from this page, and something closer to my heart is I've got this YouTube channel, Love to Network. Even if you don't watch the videos, please subscribe, because then I get more money for that. Thank you very much.
In the interest of time, we can take one more question.
I have a small one to Markus.
I had the bigger one.
I think that follow up later. So.
I have a quick question.
Okay.
It's more of a, because you said that you started, that you wanted to do open source, but the main benefit of the SONiC, right, is hardware agnostic, right?
Yeah.
But you're going with a particular flavor.
Yeah, for now we do that.
So that was my question as
yeah,
well.
okay.
You're talking not about the community SONiC here. You're talking about enterprise
SONiC,
Broadcom SONiC, if I get it right?
Yeah.
Okay. So all this presentation was about the enterprise SONiC made by Broadcom.
Yeah, so far we...
So how much of this works in the community? That was my question.
We haven't tested that for a while. Like 2 years ago, we had a look and decided we stick to that. So long term, we went for white label switches and that. So we have the choice of not just be bound to Broadcom SONiC. But for now, that's what we do. And
okay, but how much of this works in the community one? So I understand Cisco IC maybe not there, VXLAN EVPN.
Something.
VPN is not maybe there.
.1x is not.
.1x is just, I think, thanks to Broadcom,
Partially.
I understand .1x is coming. So what is the difference?
Well,
because based on the presentation, you can think, oh, wow, SONiC community gives you all these kind of nice things. But I'm not sure. I haven't seen it.
I will cover it in my slides.
Nice. Okay. Sorry.
One tiny thing from me, fan control works better. So for that I looked at the source code of the community.